Welcome back. This is video number 2 in this quick series on migrating Gmail workspace into M365. So just as a real quick recap, what I've done is I've got the user list. Obviously, these are the Google accounts, which is all done, and exported all of the accounts into 365. Check out the first video if you haven't seen that one. But it means that we have live accounts inside Microsoft 365, all licensed. The OneDrives are ready to go. They are live accounts. I can show you that if we just log in as Carl there. So we will go over to the other window. Now, obviously, this is what you've seen before. This is all the mail that we've got ready for him. So I'll start a new one. We will then go into, let's go into portal.office.com and log in as Carl into his Microsoft 365 account. And it wants us to set up MFA, so I'm just going to run through real quick and do that. I'll come back to you in a second. And there you can see we're done. Now, you'll notice that it didn't have the option to say skip it for 14 days and the like. That's because in one of the other videos, which was those new MFA changes where I set up things like conditional access policy and the like, I've enforced the MFA on these people. So they don't get the choice that they can ignore it for 14 days. So go and check out that video in the channel if you haven't seen that one. But essentially, this is a brand new account, as you can see for Carl. If we look in Outlook, it should be empty, I would say. And just while that's loading up, let me just bring up in the apps as well. Let's have a look at his OneDrive. We want to keep his OneDrive open as well, because that also is blank. Let's just check out his mail. And yes, you can see that is blank as well. So yeah, got that. Don't show that. First thing I always do is turn off. Focused inbox is turned off, but first thing I always do is turn that off. I hate that thing. How do you guys feel about that? But I don't like it. Anyway, let's leave this open so we can start to see some mail coming in when we actually do the migration itself. So we're going to run back to this panel here. Now, we do that in the Exchange Center, which is this one here. I've already got that open, but when you go into Exchange, you'll see it would look like that. It looks very similar, but we're really just looking at the Exchange Online mailbox side of the house here. And you can see this menu is obviously quite different too. So what I will do is just have a look at the migration tab, and you'll see that is empty. So we're going to add a migration batch, and we're going to tell it to pull things from the Gmail side. We do that with the add migration batch there. Now, there's obviously a number of things that we need to put in to do a migration like that. So we'll call this one Millennium Batch 1, and it will be a migration to Exchange Online. Next, migration type. Now, this is where we get to choose that it's a Google Workspace migration here. This could be remote move. It could be coming from another tenant. It could be an IMAP. It could be the hybrid system. But obviously, the controls afterwards are dependent on what we put in here, which is Google Workspace. And we hit next. Now, this is the nice thing about this whole environment, and this is why I chose to make this video, is because when you want to do things manually, look at this list here. You got to do, and you can do these. Like we always had to do this stuff. You go in and create the service account in Google Workspace and the private keys and all of that. But now they've got a system where they can do things for you automatically, which is kind of nice. I thought I'd show that one. So let's hit the start button there, and let's see what we need to do. So first thing is obviously choosing that account. Now, the cool thing is with this browser is that you'll notice that I'm already logged in as the super admin on this side here. So that's obviously the easy way to do it. It's going to come up with that. Otherwise, just log in as normal. So we do that. Yes, we're going to go in as the Millennium admin. It will ask us for the password, which I'll grab and put in there. Okay, and next. And now it's asking us what we want to do. So yes, we do obviously need to give it rights to these. That's an optional one. We don't need to. I'm just going to put that in. Actually, yes, we will put that one on. And make sure that we trust the EAC migration, which is all good. We can go and look at those things if we wanted to, but I'm just going to hit continue there. And that should go into the tenant for us and do all that long-winded work that we had to do previously. It's going to do it all for us. Could not be easier, right? Now I wanted to show you this. It is a message saying that it can't do that piece of work. It needs us to log on to the Google Workspace account previously. Now, if you've been in there before, it's not going to be a problem, but if you do click on that link, it will take you to this page, which you can then log in, and it's saying, yes, hey, obviously there's terms of service on the Google Cloud side, which we'll just agree with and continue. And then we jump back and then we do the retry again after a few minutes, and it should go through. So let's just do that. I just wanted to bring up that error so you can see this sort of thing does happen, does exist. So we'll do that, and we'll just hit the try again, and we'll give it a crack now. And it has done it. And what it does as well is it pops up a little notice here that it's asking you to download this file. Now, this is the JSON file that we're going to use a little later on. So in this case, we'll just put it in downloads just for now, but you definitely need to keep this file it creates. But you can see it's done the job, it's created everything, and you can just run through. I mean, if you want to click on the link and add the scopes for the API access. All of it in there. Yep. And you can see there's our delegation. Because what we need to do here is we need to take these items and manually put those in. So with that link, which will take us to here, we just need to grab that client ID, this one, and do the @new, drop it in there, and then once we tab down there, sorry, we need to then take these scopes just from this point, copy those into here, and authorize that. And they'll drop into there, and that obviously does all that job for us. It adds those extra scopes we need so we can have the correct access. So once we've done that, we're good to go. We can just hit next. Now this migration endpoint is really just a name. There won't be anything in there right now, so we're going to create a new one, which we'll just give a name, and we'll call this one that. These here, we don't touch those. That's the standard limit that's been set from the 365. It's obviously the best one to use. Basically leave it alone. If you want to look at these here, you can see how many mailboxes at the same time. Obviously in this migration, we've only got 4 anyway, but you want to keep it around 20. Otherwise, yeah, it's not the best setting. Okay. So this is more of a testing thing as well. It needs the email address of that master account. So we put in here admin@millennium.com, and we do need to import that JSON file. Now this is that file I was talking about before. We just do the import JSON there, and we just go downloads, and there it is. Open that up and hit next on there. So that'll then go ahead and save that endpoint for us and set up the connection. There we go, new endpoint created. Good. So really for this batch, now we want to import the CSV file that has the migration details. Obviously, this is how we set up and tell it what email data to pull from Google and put into M365. Now we're going to jump back to that spreadsheet so we can create this CSV file. Do that here, and we can just go file new, that's blank one. Now what we will do is we'll just take this column here and just paste that into this guy, and we will change this so it just says email address as one word. So really we're just looking for a list of accounts. So we'll then hit file and save as, and we'll put it into as a CSV file and drop that into downloads. There we are there. No matter what we call that, we know where it is, and we are done. So let's just drop back into here, get the import CSV, let's grab that file and away, and it should tell us that, actually not yet, we can say unknown columns. If you had a whole ton of other columns as well as that email address, you could import that CSV file, and then you just click on here, and that would ignore those other columns, but I will just hit next on that and carry on. Now the target delivery domain, we need to put in there. Now that is going to be the tenant name. Soft.com. And we can tell it there as well if we want any folders to be skipped or migrated. Any items with a time range, what do we want to do, mail, calendar, contacts. We get a bit more control over this. So if we say select folder there, we could say excluded folders and included. We can exclude certain things if you want to exclude deleted items, for example, then you could do that in there. But we're just going to leave it empty. And the time range, if you're doing a pre-stage, so let's say you were pre-staging everything and giving them 3 months worth of mail as the first run to get them live, and then you'll bring over the rest of the mail afterwards. That's a common migration tactic. You would then put the date ranges here for this batch and then run another batch with the other fill-in dates as well. But in this case, we're just going to grab everything, so we're good to go with that. And hit next. And in here, if you've done obviously a hybrid migration before, you would have seen these before. This is the email address that's going to get the notifications out of the batch, and I'm fine with it being this one. Do we want to automatically start it? I'm going to say manually start the batch later and manually complete it, because it'll stage everything first for you and then you can complete it. That way you can stage everything, and it calls it 95%, but it's basically everything right up to the last 24 hours or so. And every 24 hours it picks up that delta and just runs that through. That's a good thing to have. Manually start, manually complete, and we will have everything pre-stage ready for when we want to cut over. Very handy to say we'll pre-stage everything with this particular scenario, and then maybe like a Friday night or a Sunday night, whatever you choose, you'll just hit the completion and it should go through pretty quickly. You want to hit save. And once we've done that, it will then obviously check everything out, make sure we are in a good place, and then it will add, as you can, there we go, batch creation successful. We hit done, and you'll see it appear in this screen here. And at the moment, you can see it says stopped. So to kick that off, we just click here and we say resume. Even though it's just starting out from scratch, we'll say go ahead and confirm, and that will attempt to kick off the batch. And then we just get to monitor it and see what it's like. So that could take a little while to go through. It'll take a little bit to get started. And you'll find that if you've got 4 people or you've got 40 or even 100 people in the batch, the time to start when it starts to actually get into the migration mode is relatively similar. So just be prepared, even though you might have a small amount there, just let it start and then come back to it. And you'll find it will then hopefully it'll start saying synced. If at least one of them starts working, you know that all your settings are right with your migration endpoints and your APIs with Google and the like. But it's worthwhile coming back in maybe 15-20 minutes time and just seeing what it looks like. So we'll obviously pause this now, and I will come back and check very shortly. And I'll just add there, one of the fun things you can do is if you just go into the mail here, what you should see, if you want to keep an eye on it, is you should start to see mail actually appear in this here as the migration starts. And that's obviously the proof of the pudding, so to speak, that you can start seeing data in Carl's mailbox. So we might just leave that one open as well and keep this other batch settings open too and see what it looks like shortly. So I always like to try and do these real world things to show you that everything doesn't just work perfectly. Every time there's still things to do. So look at this. Look, we've got 4 and 4 failed. There's only 4 people in there. So let's go and have a look at the batch. Go in here and view details. And let's have a look. Yes, they all failed. So you click on each one and you'll then see what's going on. Now it looks like we've got an API issue. API call to Google, entered in the error, blah, blah, blah. Enable it. So basically it's saying the Google Calendar API hasn't been enabled for that project. So it's saying visit this here and add it in and see what we can do. So let's just grab that and let's window, put that in and see what is going on. Okay, look at that. Yep, that's the project. That's the one set up. Obviously that link is good. We are already logged in as the admin user, which is why it's good to keep it in this browser. So we can just hit enable on the calendar API. Now this doesn't have to be done for each person. This is going to be a global setting across there. That is now done. Now there's a good chance that all of them are not enabled. If it's just calendar, there will probably be others as well. Let's go and check those out now. So let's run back through here and have a look at these APIs. So these are the other ones. We've got the Gmail. Looks like we've got things coming in here, the service account. So let's just jump into these. And that one looks enabled. That's good. And likewise here. And service management API looks fine as well. And obviously the Gmail API itself, and that's enabled too. So let's jump back to the migration screen here. Now we've done that. It could take a few minutes before it kicks off and actually starts working. But you know what? Let's just go back here and we say resume migration, and that'll just give it another crack. So let's do that and see what happens. We may have to wait a little bit longer for it to really work, but let's just kick it off now and see what happens. So look at that, we've got syncing. We don't have anything in our failed column anymore. So let's go and have a look at the batch itself, view details. And look at that, we've got some items syncing, which is really good news. We'll just wait for it to finish and say synced, and then I'm going to go and check out the other mailboxes and see what's in there. Then I can show you how to do the cutover and make it live on 365. Few refreshes later, and you can see we have 4 synced items in the batch. Let's just go into the batch and check it out. View details. And sometimes that happens with the refresh. If you wait too long, just jump straight. There we go. View details again. Should come back to us. So there we have it. Look, synced. It's happy with the data consistency. That means we don't have any bad items, and everything it thinks has come over good. All the item count. Now what we can do is have a look at mail inside 365, and look, it's all there, which is definitely good to see. So if we look at the original, you can see this one has got 189, and this in terms of unread items. Now look at this one here. This has got 185. Now if you look at the difference, this finished at 4 p.m. here, but we've had mail come in since there. You can see there's the 401, and then we've got 4 mails after that, which is what our discrepancy is. So that's why I'm saying that the sync process takes everything up to that point in time and the majority of the mail, but there'll always be that little block that it's going to be missing off the end. That's why we have the completion of the batch we need to do just to bring that up. Now what's important here is the order we do things, because what we don't want to do is obviously mail is still going to keep coming into this mailbox here continuously. We've got to make sure we can grab everything out of the mailbox and bring it over into this one. So what we'll do with the cutover process, and we'll just jump back to the main screen here for these people. Now this is obviously a big bang approach. Sometimes you do a slow burn with migration. That's a whole other migration. But for this particular one, we're just going to do this big bang approach. What we would need to do is change the MX record in the DNS so we can point the mail that's coming inbound into Microsoft 365 now. And obviously everything new comes into the to the M365 mailboxes, and then we would do the completion of the mail with this batch. So if I jump back here, that's the option here for complete migration batch. That'll pick up that little delta of difference that it hasn't got. Those 4 emails that you saw will then come across as part of that. So what we'll do, we will cut this over. I know we haven't done the Google Drive or anything yet, but that's fine. That can come afterward. This will be like a weekend task we're doing. We'll do that next. But what we'll do is to get this cutover working so the users can now say, I'm now on Microsoft 365. We're going to change that MX record, prove that mail is flowing into the new M365 mailboxes, and then we'll complete the batch and it'll pick that up. So let's go ahead and do that now. So here's our DNS management for the domain inside GoDaddy. And if we scroll down a little bit, you can see we've still got the CNAME there. That's all good. But we've got MX records obviously pointing to Google. And we also have this SPF record pointing to Google as well. We're going to get rid of those. First thing we want to do is add in the Microsoft 365 one first, and then we'll remove these. So there's absolutely no issue in terms of the downtime there. So we need to make sure that we know what that is. So if we just jump into the Exchange Admin Center here, and actually we will go back one. We'll go to the domains. You'll see if we go into here, go ahead here and look at the DNS records, and you can see these are what they're meant to be. So you can see, obviously, currently we have the error sitting there because they're not set to that. So let's go ahead and change those. Let's grab this one here. That's the MX record. And you can see it's complaining the fact we've got these Google entries in here. So let's grab that and copy that out. And DNS, what we'll do is we're going to add it in with a 0 priority on it. It makes it the top one effectively. So MX, priority 0, and value is 365. Now, as soon as we do this, mail will start routing into the new mailboxes. As soon as that obviously propagates out. So once we've got that one in, let's go and take these ones away. We don't need the site verification anymore. It's all good. So let's go and delete those. Yes, please. Okay, so they're gone. Now we need to deal with these text records. So we'll get rid of this one and this one. And that's easily there. Delete. Oh, that's nice. What have we got that for? Maybe this guy here. It really doesn't want to get rid of that one, does it? I don't know what that is even for. Okay, maybe that one first. Okay, that's gone. And this guy. I think that's because it's linked to some other service that we've got set up here. So interesting. I wonder if we can edit it instead. Because we do need to edit it for the obviously the 365 one. So we'll grab that. As you know, I do like to keep this all real world, so I keep the errors that we come across so that everybody doesn't think that it's just totally easy and everything just works great all the time. We just do that. Okay, it's updated that. So that seems all good. So we'll leave those there and let that propagate out for a little bit, and then we'll send some mail to Carl directly and see if it turns up in his 365 box. If we are happy with that, then we'll go ahead and do the completion of the batch and get that over. I want to show you something that I found that's actually pretty cool. You can check out how far the DNS has propagated out. It's a really cool site, just called DNS checker.org. And that, and what we do here is we just put it in and say, check for the Planium. I want to have a look at the MX record, and check this out. If I hit search here, when I hit search, what it will do is look at each of these DNS servers globally, and it tells you what the entry is. If we scroll down here, look, there's our entry that we put in a short time ago. It's basically everywhere. Totally happy with that. So from that, we can see that we are good to go. We can just close that out. What I'm going to do is it's over here, and we'll put in our Onion test email right there, like that, and we will send that. And what we're expecting is that it does not turn up in here, which looks like it isn't so far, and we want it to appear in here. Oh, there we go. There, test. So obviously mail is routing now to 365. That's all good. So really we are in a position we can say, okay, Carl, you can stop using this anymore and use this one instead. So the last step on this mail migration side is to jump back in here. We don't need this DNS anymore, and we'll go to the Change Admin Center for this batch. And I should do a refresh. It's always good because, you know, we had those timeouts on the screen. Sometimes it jumps back out. Let's go in here and we say complete migration batch, and that will go ahead and pick up that delta that we were talking about. So what I'm expecting to see, and if we just go down to see what we're actually expecting, is we'll have an email from Fox News. There we go, which was the 539 email. That one, which is currently not in here, as you can see, there's a gap. between now and obviously when the migration is finished, there'll be 4 emails between these two, and that way we know that the mail migration in the completion has picked those up and done that correctly for us, and just finished off that last little bit of mail. So we will go. Oh, you know what? Wait, I didn't have to go and check. You see those pop in as it was doing it. That's incredibly fast. That was doing that. So here we go, and yeah. Now also you can see here what it's done is we've got a forwarding confirmation come up. Now this is the next thing I wanted to talk about. During the completion of the mail, what it does is it sends this. Now, it means that if we were doing a slow burn approach and not the big bang that I was talking about, what we would want to do is make sure that all our users go and do this, which is you can't set a forwarder programmatically on the Google side. The users control the forwarder, unlike M365 where you can. On Google, the user has to do it. And this is quite a cool feature because it means that the user now has to click on this link and will put in the request to put the forwarder on, and you can see here these are instructions on how to do that. It means that if anybody was still using the Google tenant, let's say we've cut over 100 people, we've still got 100 people to go the following weekend. If somebody inside the organization emails Carl to his old address inside Google, this will put a forwarder in place to forward it across to the Planium account in Microsoft 365. And you'll notice here that it's asking to forward to this address, which is the underlying ID of the mailbox, because it obviously has an alias. You can't send it to the Planium because inside Google, it's going to try and stay in itself. So really it needs to go outbound and hit this so that any mail is sent by anybody still in that tenant. And it only applies to going if mail appears in that particular tenant. We'll go through this. It's a nice little safeguard. Not necessary, like I say, if you're doing a big bang approach, but the slow burn approach, this is exactly what you would want and expect to happen. So let's go ahead and do that and see how that works. Now, obviously in this session here, we are logged on as him as well, so we can go in here and do this. And it says, yep, please confirm forwarding, and we say confirm. And it says there, we'll now forward mail. So it is actually a very, very simple thing for the user to go and do. And now any mail that goes into here from the Google tenant will bounce straight, well, actually forward straight out into the M365. Now, if you want to have a look at that and where that is, it's actually under the settings here. See your settings, and we look at forwarding and pop. You can see forward a copy of inbound mail and keep the mailbox in the inbox. The user can say that they want to delete the one that comes in so it doesn't muddy it up and they get 2, or just archive it. But generally, that's the one that you'd have there. So you can see this is a very nice and easy way of that being done. So we'll jump back into the admin center and let's do a refresh on the batch. And you can see it still says completing. Now that is because it's finalized 1, it's still got some more to go. It just happens to have done Carl very quickly. If we look at this, we should see in the details that Carl is done, which he is. It's still doing the rest of them. They will continue to go, and we can check on those a bit later on. But essentially, Carl is done, and these will finish. And really, that concludes what we need to do with the mail, to be honest. Obviously, in a real world situation, you'd watch and make sure this is done, and you check with the users and make sure everybody's happy. But in terms of this presentation on the video, I think we can call it a day. Thanks again for watching, and as always, please subscribe if you haven't done already. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Gee, I should just tell you, number 3 of this video series, I'm going to do the OneDrive migration next. We haven't quite finished with the whole thing, so look at that video next for the OneDrive, and I'll see you on that. Thank you.